You are familiar with the fascinating and notorious details of their lives. But did these incredible historical characters actually live at some point in the past? The verdict has yet to be decided. King Arthur. We've all heard stories about King Arthur of Camelot, who, according to medieval legend, led British forces, including his trusted Knights of the Round Table, in the battle against Saxon invaders in the early 6th century. But was King Arthur actually a real person, or simply a hero of Celtic mythology? Though debate has gone on for centuries, historians have been unable to confirm that Arthur really existed. Most of the stories about King Arthur are based on legend and myth, rather than fact. Some historians believe that King Arthur may have been a real historical figure, who was later embellished with mythical attributes and legends. Others believe that King Arthur was a purely fictional character, created by medieval writers to serve as a national hero and a symbol of British identity. Ultimately, the true existence of King Arthur may never be known for certain. Pythagoras. Even if you can't quite put your finger on precisely what the Pythagorean theorem refers to, triangles, you're likely familiar with the well-known mathematical equation. The old Greek scholar Pythagoras may not have even had the foresight to pop up with it. Instead, it could have been the early Egyptians who initially came up with the idea. There are, in fact, no primary sources about Pythagoras which have survived. The only piece of literature that we have of him is from a small set of texts that was written between 150 AD and 450 AD. That is, 600 to 1,000 years after Pythagoras is said to have lived. So, their accuracy is questionable. It is now almost universally assumed by classical scholars that Pythagoras never existed. It seems that there was a group of people in southern Italy called Pythagoreans who invented a founder for their beliefs, who, accordingly, lived and died in a manner consistent with those beliefs. Robin Hood. Robin Hood is most well known for robbing the wealthy to provide for the needy. However, the benevolent outlaw may have only existed in fiction. Many different Robin Hoods were found to dot the history of medieval England, often with variant spellings. One of the oldest references found is in a 1226 court register from Yorkshire, England. It cites the expropriation of the property of one Robin Hood, described as a fugitive. In 1262, in southern England, there is a similar mention of a man called William Robhood in Berkshire. In 1354, farther north in Northamptonshire, there is a record of an imprisoned man named Robin Hood, who was awaiting trial. Because 19th century historians discovered many different records attached to the name Robin Hood, most scholars came to agree that there was probably no single person in the historical record who inspired the popular stories. Instead, the moniker seems to have become a typical alias used by outlaws in various periods and locations across England. Sun Tzu. The Art of War, written by Sun Tzu, is considered one of the most influential books on military strategy. It is impossible to say when the ancient book was written, but most scholars place its origin somewhere between the 4th and 5th centuries. And despite its advanced age, modern military commanders and CEOs continue to consult and use it in their businesses. Nobody really knows for sure whether the Chinese military strategist truly existed, or whether the strategic masterpiece was simply a collection of Chinese knowledge accumulated by many different individuals over a period, and then credited to a particular writer. Homer. The question of whether Homer was a real person is a subject of ongoing debate among scholars. The ancient Greeks believed that Homer was a single, blind poet who composed the epic poems of the Iliad and the Odyssey. However, there is little historical evidence to support this view. Some scholars argue that the Iliad and the Odyssey were not the work of a single author, but were instead the result of a long and complex oral tradition passed down over generations of bards. Others contend that there may have been a real person named Homer who played a role in the composition of the poems, but that he was not the sole author. Mulan. The story of Mulan is a well-known Chinese legend that dates back to the Northern Wei dynasty, 386 to 534 AD. However, whether Mulan was a real person or not is a matter of historical debate, and there is no clear evidence that she actually existed. According to legend, Mulan was a brave young woman who disguised herself as a man to take her father's place in the army and fight in his stead. She served for 12 years and was eventually recognized for her valor and promoted to a high rank. The story of Mulan has been passed down through oral tradition and written accounts for centuries and has become a celebrated part of Chinese folklore. While there is no definitive proof that Mulan was a real person, the story has had a significant impact on Chinese culture and continues to be celebrated through literature, film, and other forms of media. William Tell. William Tell is a renowned Swiss bowman who is said to have been ordered by a tin pot dictator to shoot an apple off the top of his child's head. Tell's shot was accurate, and the Swiss attributed the gesture of heroism to the beginning of Switzerland's campaign towards becoming an independent country. Tell's arrow hit its target. Although it is said that the story took place sometime around 1307 AD, scholars have not discovered proof that the account or the person is anything more than an inspirational fable. Betty Crocker. You have this image of her as a traditional kitchen queen who is exceptionally knowledgeable about baking. She is not an actual human, which is a great disappointment. She was made up by the company that would later become General Mills to respond to customer questions. The name Betty was chosen because of its pleasant-sounding reputation, while the family name Crocker was derived from the business owner. The character quickly established herself as a dependable and well-liked master of cooking tips and recipe books. John Henry. The heroic railroad guy was too unbelievable to be true. The John Henry songs emerged in the post-Civil War period when the railways were being constructed and the United States of America wanted to grow into a giant of the industry. The John Henry songs were written during this time. It was said that Henry was a long-time enslaved person who had raced a steam drill and won, but he had to pay the price for his victory by passing away soon after. The narrative emphasizes his fighting spirit and persistence, but there is little proof to support the existence of an actual John Henry. It appears that he is a mock-up of many stories starring ordinary Americans who exemplified the ferocious enthusiasm that the United States of America wished to portray. Uncle Sam. You have probably seen him in one of the I Want You recruitment posters, depicting him as an older man with white hair and a top hat. The entrepreneur who provided the armed forces with regulations, was also known by the military soldiers as Uncle Sam, was the model's inspiration. In the War of 1812, soldiers would make jokes about their snacks being supplied by Uncle Sam. However, they were not alluding to the supplier. Rather, they were about the military itself. The use of the moniker dispersed, particularly in newspaper articles, and by the time World War I rolled around, Uncle Sam had become a well-known character. Despite their popularity, the 10 historical figures above might actually be a product of imagination. Shocking facts, aren't they? If you're eager to learn more facts like these, subscribe to our latest videos and support us by clicking that like button.